So studying crime patterns enables us to understand where crimes occur, who commits crimes, and why they violate the law. And when we do this, we find some enduring, stable patterns. We find some ecological patterns, differences between rural and suburban areas. Urban areas experience more crime than rural areas because of the issues associated with poverty, density, and conflict. Crime rates tend to be higher in the summer because the warmer weather allows individuals to act more or interact more. In addition, during the summer months, more adolescents are out of school and not supervised. And we find that the West and the South have significantly higher crime rates. These regional differences are consistent. However, the explanations for these differences are sometimes difficult to determine. Gender patterns are also important. Males are arrested more frequently than females. Males account for about 80% of all arrests for serious violent crimes and more than 60% of all arrests for serious property crimes. There's some reasons for this. Males are stronger and better able to commit violent crime is one of them, possibly. Males are more aggressive. Girls are socialized to be less aggressive. Girls have better verbal skills that allow them to diffuse conflict. And males are granted greater personal freedom at a younger age and therefore have more opportunities to commit crime. Racial patterns are important. African Americans make up about 13% of the population, but about 36% of the arrests for Part 1 violent crime and 28% of property crime. Some of this is due to institutional racism. The police are more likely to arrest minority suspects than non-minority suspects for the same behavior. Racial profiling is a problem. This is the practice of stopping and searching African Americans without probable cause or reasonable suspicion. You could also say it's profiling any group. Ethnic profiling, another problem. And then there's the racial threats hypothesis, where the percentage of minorities in the population grows. The police increase the level of control over them by aggressively patrolling minority neighborhoods, and that therefore increases a crime rate that might not go up otherwise. Social class is certainly an issue. Limited opportunities produce stress and strain that may cause residents to relieve frustration through crime. Social disorganization is also another problem. Poverty produces a sense of relative deprivation. Therefore, you want what others have and commit crimes to get it. We also know that the deteriorating neighborhoods theory, where it attracts law violators, otherwise known as the broken hypothesis, or the broken windows hypothesis, could be playing an effect, and then law enforcement agencies tend to focus more resources on poorer neighborhoods for a lot of those reasons. And then just as a strategy for social control. Just to remind you, relative deprivation refers to the phenomenon that may affect poor people who live in close proximity to affluent people. The desire for more among poor people may produce a strain that encourages poor people to rationalize behaviors that we consider criminal. Age and career also create problems. Some explanations for how age-crime relationships could be explained, especially the idea that young people are arrested at much higher rates than older people, and elderly crime rates have remained stable over for 20 years. Youth take more risks. Adolescents are way psychologically less mature. Youth have tend to have limited financial resources. Young people just simply have more energy to commit crimes. And adolescents are aware that the crimes that they commit when they're juveniles are less severe than the crimes they commit when they're adults. And of course, career patterns. Long-term study of 9,945 boys from 1945 until 1963 found that 2/3 never had any contact with police. 1/3 had at least one contact with police, and the repeat offenders were arrested 5 more times. Victim patterns. We can see victim patterns in reference to gender. Men are much more likely than women to be victims of robbery, theft, and aggravated assault. Females are more likely to be victims of sexual assault. We can see it in reference to age. Young people below the age of 25 are more likely to be victimized simply because adolescents stay out later. Teens tend to hang out with adolescent peers, where they're more likely to commit crimes. And although elderly people seem more vulnerable, they are not as likely to be victimized. Unmarried or never married people are more likely to be victimized. African Americans are victimized by violent crime more than any other group. This discrepancy may be explained by the fact that African Americans tend to live in larger metropolitan areas where there's more crime. As we mentioned earlier, there's some ecological factors at play here. Most victimization occurs in large urban areas during the evening hours and usually in a public place. There's a victim-offender relationship. About half of all victimization are committed by strangers. The other half are committed by someone previously known by the victim. And women are more likely to know the person who victimizes them. And then, of course, repeat victimization, where individuals who are victimized have a significantly higher chance of subsequent victimization. Same with households, and some combination of personal lifestyle and social factors may increase victimization as well. Some causes or explanations. Of course, rational choice, biosocial theories, psychological theories, social structure, social process, social conflict, and developmental theory. The crime statistics inform us of crime and victimization patterns. This information really doesn't help in preventing future criminal acts or victimization. Unfortunately, these numbers do not tell us why people commit crimes. They just tell us that people do commit crimes. Criminological theories explain why crime happens. These paradigms view crime as a social phenomenon and study the social and economic factors that influence criminal behavior. And they view crime as an individual level phenomenon in an attempt to identify the cognitive and psychological process that result in this antisocial behavior. The rational choice theory proposes that potential criminals make decisions on whether to commit crime in much the same way anybody weighs the risks and rewards of any activity. If the potential rewards are greater than the potential risks, then one's likely to commit crime. This suggests that if a threat of getting caught is high, then the crime is likely not to happen. Hence, a general deterrence to the crime. Biosocial theory proposes that human behavior is a function of the interaction between biochemical, neurological, and genetic factors with some environmental stimuli. These biological and biochemical factors include abnormalities that lead to antisocial behavior, the neurological effects, factors affect decision making, and the genetic factors are based on the idea that there might be a genetic disposition towards violent behavior. Many experts believe criminality is caused by psychological factors within the individual. Psychodynamic theory proposes that criminals are driven by unconscious thought patterns developed in early childhood. Social learning proposes that patterns are modeled and learned by interactions with others. Cognitive theory proposes that the law violators may lack the ability to perform cognitive functions in a normal, orderly fashion. And personality theory proposes that law violators possess a disturbed personality structure and are prone to criminal behavior, much like sociopaths and psychopaths. Social structure theory, on the other hand, proposes that a person's position in the social structure controls his or her behavior. Those living in poverty become antisocial as a result of destructive social forces of human nature. The crushing lifestyle of a slum area produces a culture of poverty passed on from one generation to the next, essentially permanently placing their members in the underclass. Strain theory proposes that stress associated with being poor in a wealthy country produces a strain that causes individuals to commit crime. And cultural deviance theory proposes that strain and social isolation produce a unique structure called substructure. These substructures values are handed down from one generation to the next in the process of cultural transmission, and they maintain a criminal subculture that's passed on from generation to generation. Social structure theory states that a person's place in the social structure determines their behavior. But what kind of impact does a family's economic and social behavior and social challenges have on a child's behavior? Think about what your family has prevented or allowed for within your own criminal activities, if you have any or not. Social process theory holds that people commit crimes as a result of the experiences they have while they're being socialized. The first branch of social learning theory suggests that people learn the techniques and attitudes of crime from close and intimate relationships. The second branch maintains that everyone has the potential to become criminal, but most people are controlled by their bonds to society. And the third branch, or social reaction, suggests that both crimes and criminals are subjective concepts. People who run afoul of the law are given negative labels, and that's ultimately stigmatizing. Social conflict theory views the economic and political forces operating in society as the fundamental causes of criminality. The criminal justice system is believed to help the powerful and disempower the poor. And of course, development theory proposes that young children begin relationships and behaviors that determine their adult life course. People who make transitions from one phase of life to another without full development are more apt to commit crime. The life course perspective suggests that criminal behavior is a dynamic process, and it's influenced by individual characteristics as well as social experiences, and that the factors that cause antisocial behaviors dramatically change over time. The propensity theory suggests that human development is controlled by a master latent trait, such as impulsivity, intelligence level, or self-control that remains stable and unchanging throughout a person's lifetime. And the trajectory theory suggests that there are subgroups with the population that follow distinctively different developmental paths from one criminal behavior to another.